Good evening. We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. At this time, our clerk will read the roll.
Boyes, Connor, Davis, DeShazier,
Present.
Fusco, Garrett,
Present.
Hannah,
Here.
Hardy, Kamer, Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick, Amobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present except for Councilwoman Boyes and Councilman Hardy.
Thank you. At this time, for those who voluntarily wish to do so, would you please stand as we do prayer? And I'm going to ask if Councilman Fusco will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to read a prayer of unity and healing in God's created world. Dear Heavenly Father, in a world that sometimes feels fragmented and divided, we implore you to help us discover unity in our shared role as caretakers of your creation. As we witness the scars inflicted upon our environment and within our own hearts, we seek your healing touch. Grant us the grace to work together in love and harmony, restoring the delicate balance that you intended. In this prayer, we pledge to be instruments of your peace, mending what is broken and fostering a sense of oneness among all living beings. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
The motion to approve the minutes passes 11-0.
At this time, we'll move to our public comment period. I'm going to ask all those who have signed up to participate to please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by our clerk.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do. I do. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to begin with Acacia Reynolds.
Hello, Council.
Hello.
Madam President. I am greatly disappointed in the reactionary decisions that played out around the Juneteenth celebrations. For the record, the event that I went to on Saturday had no issues whatsoever. It was a great time of community. We had good food. We had fireworks afterwards. A lot of fun was had by a lot of people. All you accomplished was to show Akron that you are completely ruled by fear. 4 police officers was more than I knew was going to be at the Joy Park event, and I was planning to go anyway. What you did was to rob Akron of their chance to choose. You robbed Ward 5 of the chance to heal after a tragedy, and you robbed the rest of Akron of a chance to come and stand in solidarity with their neighbors. I agree that mass shootings are frightening events, but so are any other type of murder. A life is taken if it is a murder. When are there not killers on the run somewhere in the state of Ohio, let alone the rest of the country? Why did we only shut down the hard-won holiday for the Black community? From my viewpoint, I was looking forward to celebrating a holiday that should have been on the calendars over a century ago. But I only learned of it when I moved to Akron. I was greatly looking forward to it. The letter from this council, as well as the resulting actions from the administration, were completely deplorable. Inasmuch as you are treating Akronites like children unable to make their own choice. We must do better. Because last time I checked, we're grown adults. Where was my chance to say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable taking my children to this event? That was taken from me. And yes, maybe there are circumstances that would have made me decide not to go, but I did not see them. Please do better and let us choose for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Acacia. Danny Durst.
My name is Danny Durst, and I'm a resident of Ward 1 in the city of Akron. I admit I left last week's meeting upset after sitting through over 20 minutes of comments not on the agenda about Juneteenth events, and it prompted me to draft a reply. Before I move on to anything else, I need to acknowledge that I agree with members of council that have noted we have an issue with gun violence in the city. I need to acknowledge I agree with members of council that the quality of life is too often unequal in one neighborhood to the next and in comparing wards in the city. And we should all acknowledge persons of color living within our borders should receive a greater focus on equity. I apologize for having to refocus, but my time is limited. For those here that are unaware, there is an online application process with documenting forms for privately organized events on city property. The application states that the burden of security and liability for privately organized events is the responsibility of the organizers. If publicly funded officers are specifically being dispatched to secure an event, the city should be organizing the events. But no ambiguity is unhelpful, and organizers depend on consistent policy to plan. While securing a safe environment for all of Akron citizens should be everyone's goal, critical statements of an administration that did not provide publicly funded security for private events is unwarranted. It was also suggested at last week's meeting that an allocation of $400,000 police buyout proposed by the mayor be redistributed, but that money never even went for a vote. In the city of Akron, council holds the purse. I was here when my then council representative secured funding and votes to pay off medical debt. The then councilman in Ward 4 at that same meeting said council should be prioritizing money to support programs to make everyone in the city of Akron safe. The president of council at that time said to him repeatedly, "You have to do the work." The first letter from council members that led to the cancellation of Juneteenth events stated, "We strongly urge that the celebrations be canceled." In this room, we should have begun these discussions by acknowledging that. Be just. Council members complained they were not informed of nor invited to a mayor's press conference. Instead of another press release from council that was not the easiest to find, hold your own conference. Maybe even beg the better half and invite the mayor to yours. But if a past member of council was able to learn about it, get to the meeting, and was able to provide a voice during and after, the example was not set by any current representatives. And as an aside to that point, nobody should be criticizing a past member of council for maintaining an independent citizen's voice. I'm sorry I've had to rush through a number of thoughts. In closing, I do want to thank you all for your service. Just do better.
Mr. Durst, thank you so much for sharing those comments. Phila Sutton.
I am probably the only one in this city that knew this day was coming since June 2nd. I feel that East Side's pain. I feel it because the event that set this all in motion on June 2nd reminds me of a similar suspicious event that happened at my park last year. You know there were too many people in my park last year. The police walked right next to 200 teenagers into my park and then walked right past it downtown. You guys walked down there on June 2nd. You saw there was an issue, you tried to clear them out, you did not stay to make sure it was taken care of, and then you walked away again. At the event last year, we were celebrating Jalen Walker. Funny that they walked out right before that balloon release. Each of these times, you didn't do anything to prevent these problems that it's your job to prevent. Sounds a lot like exactly what you did this year. This city council has rinsed, washed, and repeated this process of throwing shade and underfunding our events for the last 5 years. Just intentionally not fund it again, hide their hand, and repeatedly declare these events unsafe. You've done everything you could to mock our situations that you're paid to fix. Lightning round, Fusco, you asked a very unintelligent question last week. Why would FALA expect taxpayer dollars to protect tax-paying citizens at a city-sponsored event? That wasn't a very smart question. I'm a taxpayer. There were over 200 taxpayers at that event, and 5 of your city offices every year at that event. I'm pretty sure we pay those taxes. To the 3 black council people that last minute voted to stop $100,000 from going into their own underfunded neighborhoods out of spite. You've been mishandling that June 2nd incident that still stinks to high heaven for 2 whole weeks before you canceled that event. You left that young man's body out of the ground for 2 weeks just to bury him at Margot Somerville's funeral home on the day before Juneteenth. And when you disrespected the East Side, not 2 hours later, you canceled every event in the city out of spite. You had Janice call my phone and offer me a measly $100 to think I wasn't going to pay attention to that $100,000 y'all just walked out of the hood. The Akron Urban League helped you perpetrate by putting their name on that mockery of a Juneteenth event. You lack the capacity to fix the problems in your neighborhood. I address those problems every year through that Juneteenth. Mayor Malik came and asked me to help me this year because of the problems y'all made last year. You lack the capacity to take care of your neighborhood. Instead of trying to spite all of our hard work, you should have came and just helped. Instead, you canceled all those events because we make you look bad. That mayor makes you look bad. Him helping us makes you look bad. What you just did had you go outside.
Thank you for sharing those comments.
Can I leave?
Unfortunately, your time is up.
I get out.
And I don't want to mispronounce the last name. Last name is Pollard. Pollard. That's you. Thank you. How do you pronounce your first name?
My first name is Denane.
Denane, okay.
Denane Pollard.
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me, give me 1 second. I'm just kind of excited about this moment. City Council, I stand here before you as son of a goddess. I stand here before you to discuss Akron's education system. Our education public system was put in place by a man named J.D. Rockefeller in approximately 1902. We have went by those things that we're told about our health and what about the body. For the past 2 years, not only have I tried to find out what I am, but I tried to figure out who I am. So basically, let's start with the heart. Come to find out that we know that the heart supposedly pumps blood. The heart pumps no blood at all. The heart is simply a valve for the blood to flow through, which pumps the heart. The heart is a seven-sided shaped symmetrical figure that fits perfectly at a 36-degree angle at a box. If we go into numerology, that's the number 9, which is a 9 ether, which everything comes from, which is carbon. We have now called that the tetrahedron. The heart also is a portal for plasma. When plasma is negatively charged, it creates the galactic noose of our walls, of the veins, the arteries. It also pushes the positive water through, which allows the blood to flow. It's electrically charged. The heart unfolds, as we all know. When those two negative and that positive come together, it creates the spark of life. Same thing when the egg meets the sperm. It creates the spark of life. I just say those couple of things just to say that we are far behind. We are way far behind. And if we don't do something about the basics of our children, their reading, their math is completely off. If we have one physical property and we multiply it by another physical property, we do not have the same physical property. We now have two. Cells multiply and divide. Our whole system is wrong. If we don't start now together, I don't care about your race, but if we don't start together to implement some of these basics, like carbon is the base of life, melanin, there's 3 phases of it. It's melanin, phenomelanin, neuromelanin. That's who we are. We're all from the same place. We're all one. If we don't start now, your grandchildren are doomed. Your grandchildren. My daughter. So I appreciate that moment. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that information with us this evening. That concludes our public comment period. Before you is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We'll move into old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
Time on the agenda.
Time will be granted. Public service, Councilman Kamer. Time will be granted. That concludes our old business. We'll now move into new legislation.
Item number 1, offered by Lombardo, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Huntington Bank or its affiliated entity for a lease of vaults in various locations in the city and related courier and deposit services for a 5-year term and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo,
Consent agenda, please.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 2, offered by Fusco, ordinance amending or supplementing Title 15, Chapter 153 Zoning Code, Article 1, General Provisions, Section 153.140 Definitions, and Article 14, Conditional Uses, Section 153.464 Uses Permitted as Conditional Uses, and Section 153.476 Special Standards Applicable to Specific Conditional Uses, to add a definition of and development requirements for vape shops and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Item number 3, offered by Fusco, ordinance amending or supplementing Title 15, Chapter 153 Zoning Code, Article 1, General Provisions, Section 153.140 Definitions, and Article 14, Conditional Uses, Section 153.464 Uses Permitted as Conditional Uses, and Section 153.476 Special Standards Applicable to Specific Conditional Uses, to expand the definition of and add development requirements for marijuana facilities and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco, this item will be referred.
Item number 4, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to retain an oversized accessory structure at 87 West Linwood Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Item number 5, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a detached mother-in-law suite at 2574 Addiston Road and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Item number 6, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a child daycare business center at 1584 Crichton Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Item number 7, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a contractor's office at 1684 South Arlington Street and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Item number 8, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a child daycare business center at 121 Rhodes Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Item number 9, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a commercial use at 441 White Pond Drive and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Item number 10, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a deck and solid fence at 1869 Daniels Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
For.
This item will also be referred.
Item number 11, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids or requesting and receiving quotes or requests for proposals for the design to replace the sprinkler system in the Morley parking deck and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. Committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thanks, nothing further.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 11-0. Item number 12, offered by McKittrick, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and, if awarded, accept and expend a COPS hiring program grant administered by the U.S. Department of Justice and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
Consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 13, offered by Councilman Kamer, resolution requesting that the mayor compensate the role of police chaplain serving the city's police division and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
The wishes of the committee, it's time, please.
Time will be granted.
Item number 14, offered by Lombardo and McKittrick, resolution opposing and objecting to the renewal application of Rubber City Lounge LLC, 451 North Main Street, Akron, Ohio, 44310, for a Class D1, D3, and D3A liquor permit 0892778 before the Division of Liquor Control and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
I'd like to yield to the original sponsor, please.
Thank you, Councilman McKittrick. I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion for mayor and council as a whole.
Yes.
Please. Thank you.
So we do have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This resolution passes 11-0. Item number 15, offered by Kamer, resolution opposing and objecting to the renewal application of Office Holdings LLC, doing business as The Office, 752 East Archwood Avenue, Akron, Ohio, 44306, for a Class D5 liquor permit 6516252 before the Division of Liquor Control and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
The committee's report is favorable, asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
I would like to yield to the councilperson, Mr. Kamer, who sponsored this.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. McKittrick. I appreciate the opportunity. Just like the resolution before, this is a liquor establishment that is a trouble in our community. Obviously, back in earlier this year in March, we had a fatality outside this location, and I do know the neighbors are upset, they're concerned, and it's been a problem location for a few years now, and it's time to move forward to see if we can object to their liquor license and hopefully make the area safe. So with that, I'm hoping to get the rest of the council on board, and hopefully this will pass as council as a whole. Thanks.
And Councilman, are you making that motion?
Absolutely, I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you so much. And we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This resolution passes 11-0.
Thank you. That concludes our new legislation. We'll move into our committee assignments, rules. Councilman McKittrick. Public Safety, Councilman McKittrick. Budget and Finance, Councilman Lombardo.
3 p.m.
Parks and Recreation, Councilwoman Connor. Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilman Kamer. Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Councilwoman Connor?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to take a minute to thank Keep Akron Beautiful. They did a presentation this afternoon on their new initiative called Planting Change, 100,000 trees for Akron, with a goal to plant 100,000 trees in the city by 2034. The presentation was quite informative, and we look forward to its success.
Thank you. Anything else? Councilman DeShazer?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I hope I voiced the sentiments of all of you when I say that I'm proud to live in Akron, Ohio, USA. And I know that this has been some troubling times in recent days, and since June the 2nd, I can think of nothing else more than this being a safe and inviting community. I appreciate the citizens who have come to voice their opinions. I thank the safety forces. We averted another case on Saturday night, early Sunday morning there in the Highland Square area, and it was handled in the most professional manner possible. It's almost like we need to fire a cannon to say that we are committed to doing what we can to make Akron the place that we want it to be. We are the proverbial house by the side of the road and a friend to all passersby. People are looking at us as the example. We are the city on top of the hill, the high place. We're Akron. And so we are an inviting place. We're spending the time on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis to make sure that we're conferring with all of our resources to make sure that we can address all these problems. I just want to tell you that in Ward 1, we become the proverbial think tank for safety. Even our next meeting, and because of you, Mr. Durf, we're going to be addressing the areas along Market Street. We're going to revisit the actions that we've taken in Highland Square, and we're going to listen. We're going to listen. So thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there anything else coming before this body at this time? We have a motion on the floor. If there are no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.